Hello, my dear students. Welcome all of you to the Dhurandhar, the final revision economics current affairs video series. I know all of you would have been charged up by now for the upcoming prelims examination. You might have been following multiple sources for current affairs. Many of you would have followed in a consolidated way, or most of you would have followed an hurried approach to just skim through the important current affairs topics, or many of you would have attended practice tests where there also you would have encountered many current affairs questions, or your preparation might have been consolidated by referring to the previous year current affairs questions. When you talk about current affairs, it is not only dumping all that you know about economics of past 1 year, right? It requires a smart approach. I'm not here to teach you everything in depth, but this video series will focus on high value topics which I believe it is the must. It is not just intuition, but it is a well researched, but it is through a thorough research of previous year questions as well as the ongoing current events. I am sure all of you would be benefited through these videos. So my dear friends, what you can expect from these videos? I will be taking through at least 100 topics, right? So I am not just touching and going them. I will also dig in depth to help you to analyze the things and remember them but in a better way, right? Some topics you might feel heavier because it is examination time, or you are very close to examination, roughly 40 plus days. So if any topics feels heavier for you, don't try very hard to remember it. Just take this video series as a revision series. You can watch it at a higher speed as well. Also, I am presenting some slides in this series. You can take the screenshot of them and then you can revise for your economics preparation. So I once again welcome to the current affairs series. So let us start. And before that, I must tell you that I have organized these topics based on the priorities. So first set of topics you might come across in this video will be of highest priority, and going forward the least priority ones I'll be putting it just for the factual purposes. Okay. That means at least the first series of topics you must listen with utmost attention and focus. Before that, if you see the trend of economics questions, you must have seen lot many trends. I am not going to explain it, I'm not going to take more time for this. Economics every year around 16 to 17 questions will be asked on an average. Last year it was 18 questions. Among them, at least 35% of the questions will be from current affairs, right? So that much of analysis is better for you. And there are some high value topics when it comes to banking and monetary policy, fiscal policy and public debt, inflation, international economy, government schemes, financial instruments, that is questions related to financial market, macroeconomic concepts, and lastly agriculture, MSP, etc. So I have arranged the current affairs topics based on this priority of UPSC itself, right? So this is like count of questions. I'm not going to explain them. So let us start with the concepts related to green economy, ESG, and critical minerals, right? What is ESG? Environmental and social governance. It is not only about economics, it's about balanced growth, right? So there are certain concepts regarding ESG, green economy, and critical minerals. So my dear students, I'll just brief about critical minerals topic, per se minerals topic itself. That is more neglected topic, but if you see last 5 to 6 years of question paper, UPSC is consistently asking a question regarding minerals. It can be MMDR Act, it can be critical minerals, it can be rare earth elements, etc. And recently the minerals is all in the news because of the ongoing war and the revolution of electric vehicles, the revolution of artificial intelligence, right? The critical minerals, the rare earth elements are playing a big role, huge role, right? Trump is talking about lithium. Got it. So there is a high probability that UPSC might ask a question regarding minerals, right? So there are certain questions. I'm not going through all the PYQs, but I'll just introduce you what kind of questions UPSC may come across with. Let's say, look at this question. Consider the following statement about India's critical mineral policy. India has joined Minerals Security Partnership as a member. India is a resource-rich country of all 30 critical minerals that has been identified. Parliament in 2023 amended MMDR Act. 1957, empowering the central government to exclusively auction mining leases and composite licenses for certain critical minerals. So it is combining the current affairs along with basics, right? So there are so many such questions. What is the minor mineral? There are classification between minor mineral and major minerals. UPSC is very fond in asking about classification between minor and major minerals. That can be a question for you. And regarding questions regarding MMDR Act, right? And so many such. Again, management of minor minerals in India. Who manages minor minerals? Right. So I'm not going to go in depth of these questions. Let me know if you want this PPT. Right. I can share with you. You may go through the PYQs. I suppose this is not the right time to go through entire PYQ, maybe. Or if you're smart enough, if you want to revise it, you can take this PPT from me. But for that, you should comment below in the comment section. I'm not going to take you through all the PYQs. This is for your reference. What kind of questions that may come across in terms of minerals topic. So let us jump to the the main part of the discussion, that is current affairs topics. So MMDR Act 1957. It's a very important act when you talk about minerals and mining in India, right? What is MMDR Act? It is Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 1957, right? So I will not explain in depth, or I will not take much time to explain the basics. I'll just touch upon the important points you must know about the act. Okay. So when you talk about constitutional basis of minerals, entry 23 of state let's talk about state governments. Listen carefully. State governments own all minerals located within their state boundaries. They own them, right? And central government own minerals within India's exclusive economic zone, that is offshore maritime zone. I suppose you all know what is exclusive economic zone, right? What is MMDR Act? What MMDR Act covers? It covers all the minerals excluding minor minerals, and there are certain section of minerals which are called atomic minerals. The atomic minerals are not just governed by MMDR Act but also by Atomic Energy Act 1962. So when you talk about minerals, there are two kinds of minerals, major minerals as well as minor minerals. To summarize, MMDR Act covers major minerals because it excludes minor minerals. So it covers major minerals as well as atomic minerals, right? So what it does about major minerals, it talks about allocation of license for framing the rules and regulations, fixing the royalty for the minerals. Everything for major minerals is covered by MMDR Act. When you talk about minor minerals, it is exclusively the zone of state governments. When you talk about atomic minerals, yes, there is a separate list of atomic minerals covered in MMDR Act, but certain rules regarding atomic minerals are also governed by Atomic Energy Act of 1962. That means what? There are two laws which govern atomic minerals. That's all you must know. So what are the major and minor minerals? The word major and minor means it is not something related to the size of the minerals or the abundance of the minerals, but major means economic importance. That's all. Which the minerals which are economically important, they are classified under major minerals. Those minerals which are not so much of importance with respect to economy, they are classified under minor minerals. Okay. So when I talk about major minerals, who regulates them? Central government via MMDR Act. Who grants the leases? Again, it is state governments. So we just saw that all the minerals within the state territory are owned by state governments, right? Understand this. The minerals, the major minerals are regulated by central government. Central government frames the laws and regulations for providing the leases, fixing the royalty, and the rules which should be followed by every mining company. But who provides them licenses? It is state government. Rules are set by central government and the power is exercised by the state government. And who collects the money? It is state government. That is why I told you, state government owns all the minerals within its territory. Got it? Central government fixes the rules, state governments collects the revenue, state governments grants the leases. Understood? The power is exercised by the state government and the rules are framed by the central government. That is with respect to major minerals, right? Rules framed by central government, royalty rates set by central government. Central government tells the state government how much royalty you must collect from a particular mining company or mining sector. But who collects it and who utilizes it? It is the state government because state government owns it. Understood? What are the examples of major minerals? Iron, coal, bauxite, chromite, kyanite, sillimanite, manganese, limestone. See, when you come across names of such minerals, is it important to remember them? I don't think so, but you must be able to classify them. Whether does it belong to major mineral section or a minor mineral section. One way of identifying them is to understand whether they are economically important or not. How economically important are they? Also, there can be other type of question. There can be their application. The question may ask, what is the application of this particular mineral? Economical advantages. So, you know, iron, coal, bauxite. When I talk about chromite, chromite is anti-corrosive mineral. It is used along with the steel to bring in anti-corrosive feature. Chromite. And then kyanite. Kyanite is also used in steel industry. It is highly heat resistant. That is why it is used as a liner of the furnaces to withstand high temperatures. That is about kyanite. Sillimanite also has the same advantage for furnace linings, right? When I talk about manganese, manganese acts as a desulfurizer or a deoxidizer as well as desulfurizer. I don't expect such questions in depth, but you never know. Again, where it is used for desulfurizing means removing the sulfur. Where is it being used? It is used in the steel industry. Manganese, sillimanite, kyanite, chromite, all of them are part of steel industry. And limestone. Limestone has got various advantages including steel industry and construction sector as well. Remember, limestone is a major mineral. Compared to steel and all, you might think that okay, limestone is not an economically important mineral, but remember, it is recently classified as a major mineral. Limestone is a major mineral. When you talk about minor minerals, okay, one more thing, recent changes, barytes, feldspar, mica, quartz. Remember, barytes, feldspar, mica, quartz. They are classified as major minerals. That is in 2025. Again, second layer of question is what are the advantages of these minerals? So, barytes is used as a weighing agent while drilling the oil wells or gas wells. Okay, so you don't have to get into technicals, and I doubt that UPSC is going to ask such applications, but you never know. If the minerals are in news, they just don't focus on why it is in the news, but also they'll dig deeper. Barytes is used as a weighing agent while drilling oil wells or gas wells. Feldspar is used in ceramic industries, your ceramic utensils, right? So it acts as it has a lower melting temperature. It acts as a translucent. It gives shining character to that porcelain or ceramic, tiles, your porcelain bowls, porcelain plates, etc. So feldspar is used there. And we talk about mica. Mica has excellent, it acts as an electrical insulator. Mica has high insulating feature abilities. So it is used in manufacturing electrical equipments like capacitors, etc. Quartz, you all know, it is used in the manufacturing of glass, right? So recently these four minerals are classified as major minerals. That's about major minerals. When you come to minor minerals, it is exclusively governed, means rules are framed by the state government through their respective laws. License are allotted by state governments, revenues set by the royalties set by the state governments, and the fees collected by the state governments and utilized by the state governments. Minor minerals are exclusively under the jurisdiction of state governments, right? So leases are granted by state government, rules are framed by state government, royalty rates by state governments. And what are the examples of minor minerals? Sand, gravel, ordinary clay, bentonite, building stone, road metal, etc. Right, which are not economically so significant, but they are part of construction or any other manufacturing processes. So yes, as I told you, limestone is recently removed from minor to major mineral category. Right. So examples, as I told you, iron, coal, manganese, bauxite, chromite, kyanite, sillimanite, limestone, gold, copper, zinc, all parts, all forms the part of major minerals. And when you talk about minor minerals, sand, gravel, ordinary clay, building stone, road metal, bentonite. So remember these kind of names where UPSC tests your understanding or your knowledge. So this can confuse you. Bentonite, laterite soil, you all know laterite, marble, granite and slate. Most of these are used in the construction company. And remember, bentonite is minor mineral, right? So now, what MMDR Act does? What are the provisions under MMDR Act? Minerals and Mines Development and Regulation Act 1957. So under the Act, reconnaissance permit will be given, prospecting license will be given, mining lease will be given. I don't think UPSC is going to ask what is reconnaissance permit, what is prospecting license, what is mining lease. But why I have put this information is because of this additional license which is called exploration license. So let me differentiate between all these four. Reconnaissance permit means, overview, like surface level analysis of availability of resources. It is surface level survey through drones, through other technology, means surface level survey of the minerals available in a particular area. That's about reconnaissance permit. Second is prospecting license. It is a deep exploration, right? They may dig through it, they do some groundwork to explore exactly where and how much mineral at what quality is available. That is called prospecting license. Next is mining lease. Once you've done all the exploration, you start mining it. So all these are part of earlier MMDR Act. Okay, so what happens in general? A company which has to do mining, they have to take separate license or permits for all these three processes. So once these two, first reconnaissance and prospecting is done, then only they can carry out with their mining process. Now the recent addition is exploration license. So I will explain what is exploration license. It is newly added by 2023 amendment. In the upcoming slide, I will explain what is exploration license. So I will also talk about recent and significant amendments to the MMDR Act. I will talk about only important things. From 2015 onwards, the minerals have been allotted based on auctions. Transparent auctions will happen through online portals. Then only the minerals are auctioned for mining purpose. Before that, it was given based on first come, first serve basis. Secondly, there is a district mineral foundation has been established. District Mineral Foundation has been established. It is a non-profit fund created, non-profit foundation created in every mining district. Funds collected from mining companies are used for welfare of mining affected communities. I will talk about District Mineral Foundation a bit later. And National Mineral Exploration Trust has been set up. I will talk about this as well. And there are stricter penalties for illegal mining. So questions can come from what is DMF and what is NMET. Right. So earlier there were first come first serve basis allocation. Now the allocation of minerals happens through auction. There are other amendments also which we don't have to worry about. Important amendment is 2023 amendment. There the government classifies certain minerals as critical minerals. Under MMDR Act, certain minerals are classified as critical minerals. So now there is a lot of talk about critical minerals. So what is critical mineral? Critical mineral means the mineral which is economically critical, right? Which has got highest applications, which is very crucial for every country. These critical minerals are mostly used in electric vehicles, defense sector, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, such other disruptive technological areas, right? So these critical minerals play very important role. They are called critical because of their economical importance or significance. Second thing is supply chain importance. So most of the minerals are concentrated in certain geographical area, especially the territory of China, right? They have got strategical importance as well, strategical importance and economical importance. That is why they are called critical minerals, right? Not because they are found very rarely, right? They are called critical minerals because of their economical and strategical importance. So government lately has started to focus more on such critical minerals. So it has classified 24 critical minerals under MMDR Act, right? Central government empowered to exclusively conduct auctions for mining leases and composite licenses for these minerals. It is exclusive jurisdiction of the central government to provide leases and licenses for critical minerals. Understood? Second thing is, there are certain minerals removed from atomic list. I told you, right? MMDR Act maintains a list of atomic minerals. Originally, it had 12 atomic minerals. Now, the 6 of them have been moved out from atomic minerals list. Now, you can ask me what is the significance? Those minerals under atomic minerals list have been exclusively governed by central government. No private participant is allowed to explore them, is allowed to mine them. Not even state government is empowered to conduct exploration or to grant leases for mining, etc. It is exclusively under the jurisdiction of central government. But recently the 6 minerals are removed from atomic minerals list. That means what? Now the private sector participation is allowed, right? Based on their importance. Those 6 are lithium, beryllium, titanium, niobium, tantalum, zirconium. Right? UPSC may surprise you, right? Now, so recently something is in the news, zirconium is in the news, titanium is in the news. What is the cause? The cause is they are removed from atomic minerals list of MMDR Act. So friends, they may ask basics of MMDR Act. They may also ask the current events related to MMDR Act. To make the question more difficult, they may focus on individual mineral as well, right? I suspect that UPSC can go to this extent, but you should be prepared for the first. Maybe you would have revised the basics. Now it is a time to understand something extra. So I am giving you that. Okay. So now state agencies also can, grant licenses for that. Private sector also can explore and conduct mining with regard to those minerals removed from atomic minerals list. Now, I told you, right, exploration license. So that is a new thing that is included or introduced in MMDR Act of 2023 amendment. So now what is exploration license? My dear friends, there are certain minerals called critical minerals or rare earth elements. The first difficulty regarding them is they are not distributed equally or they are not distributed proportionally, rather they are sparsely distributed and they are deep seated minerals, right? It is not so cost efficient to conduct exploration of such minerals. They are sparsely distributed as well as they are deep seated, right? Traditional mining companies, right, they are interested in mining rather than exploration. So they don't have necessary finance, they don't have necessary incentives to conduct such complicated exploration exercises. So government comes up with exploration license. There is a different exploration license, right? So these licenses can be given to those companies which have got expertise in exploration. They are not as big enough to conduct mining itself, but they can do exploration exercises. Earlier what used to happen? Reconnaissance permit and prospective licensing, mining lease, all these things would be given to one company which is big enough to do all these three things but more interested in mining process. Right? Such companies had got very less incentives when it comes to exploration, but for critical minerals, rare earth elements, right, it is not easy to explore them. It is a highly costly process. And these companies which used to do all these three things, they lacked a special expertise for exploration of these critical minerals. So the exploration licensing has come across to grant to the specific exploration companies which have got certain unique expertise so that they can explore such deep seated minerals and sparsely distributed minerals. So what is the incentive for them then? So once they conduct exploration, once they confirm that okay, this is the kind of mineral available at such a depth, now the government auctions those mines, right? And whichever the company bids it, certain percentage of the mining royalty will go to the exploration company. So in that way, government is able to bring in the expertise in the exploration as well as making it financially viable for exploring companies. That's about exploration license. You can see it as one of the major initiative to capitalize on available critical minerals. That's about exploration license, specifically given to exploration expertise companies, and whenever they conduct exploration and found out certain mine or mineral deposit available, once the deposit is auctioned, certain percentage of royalty will be given to such exploration companies. So they can be financially viable. Right. And other amendment is reconnaissance expanded. We don't need this. 6 minerals are removed from atomic list. Critical minerals list has been maintained under MMDR Act, which is under exclusive jurisdiction of central government. Third thing is new kind of licensing, that is called exploration licensing, has been introduced. See, all these things are important because we are discussing a lot about critical minerals and rare earth elements, right? And there is a recent amendment, 2025 amendment. That is why MMDR Act is in the news. What are the recent amendments? Critical minerals push means what? Leaseholders can add critical and strategic minerals to existing mining leases. No additional royalty charged for such additions. That means what? There is already a mining lease granted for a company. So they are conducting mining. Accidentally or maybe purposefully, they found certain critical mineral deposits, right? Again, to extract those mines or those minerals, the mining companies do not have to pay extra royalty. They do not have to apply for extra license, do not have to pay any extra royalty. That's what it means. They can add critical and strategic minerals to existing mining leases. Again, this is a push to boost the extraction of critical minerals. Captive mining has made fully market oriented. Means what? What is captive mining? Captive mining is a term very often we come across in the news. Captive mining means there is a mineral deposition. For example, Tata Steel has been allotted with the mining lease. Whatever the mineral that is being extracted from the mining place, that should be exclusively used for its own industrial purpose. They cannot sell it for outside. Earlier it was the case, right? Captive mines means the mineral extracted from the mines, they should be exclusively used for in-house purposes, right? Within the industry, they should not have to sell it outside. But recent reformations have been made such minerals to be sold in the full open market. They can mine the minerals. That means what? General and captive mines, there is no distinction now. The generic mines and the captive mines, there is absolutely no distinction. Now the captive mines also can sell their minerals in the open market, right? That is the meaning of captive mining has been made fully open to the market. Earlier it was only 50% could be sold to the outer market. Now 100% is made open for the open market. There is a separate mineral exchange platform has been created. Just like commodity exchange platform, just like stock exchange platform, there is a mineral exchange platform. You can list the minerals available with you. What is the quantity, what is the quality, what is the price. The buyers can quote the price, they can also place their bids, they can purchase the minerals. A separate dedicated mineral exchange platform has been introduced. NMET has been changed to NMEDT. National Mineral Exploration Trust has been changed to National Minerals Exploration and Development Trust. D means development. One extra D has been introduced. Right? In the erstwhile MMDR Act, we had NMET. In the recent amendments, the 2025 amendment, NMET has been changed to NMEDT. Lease area expansion, again no need. Zero waste mining, the clause called zero waste mining has been introduced. Zero waste mining means the mines must ensure that what are the wastages or the residues of the mining must be taken care of so that they will not pollute the natural environment. That is, it can be water or groundwater, it can be air or whatever it is. Right? Whatever the chemicals that is released by the mines or the finest particles must be taken care by the mines so that there will not be any pollution happening due to the mining process. So these are the recent amendments. Critical minerals push, captive mining has been made fully market, mineral exchange platform, NMEDT has been established, and then zero waste mining. That's about MMDR Act. I have covered comprehensively over MMDR Act. If you know this, my intuition says there can be a question regarding MMDR Act. Now we'll briefly touch upon those minor things that we just saw about MMDR Act, that is District Mineral Foundation. There is a foundation, it is a non-profit one, right? So set up in 2025. It is not set up in all districts but only mining affected districts where the mining has been carried out. Non-profit because it is entrusted with welfare, funded by mining companies. How much? New leases, they have to pay 10% of their royalty to DMF. Old leases, they have to pay 30% of the royalty to the DMF. 10 to 30% of the royalty will be funded by companies to the DMF. So, who administers this DMF? There can be a catch. UPSC can focus on these things as well. DMF is administered at district level by district collector. Right? It is under exclusive jurisdiction of your district collector. That's about DMF. There is a dedicated scheme, Pradhan Mantri Kshetra Kalyan Yojana. Right? What is the purpose? It uses a DMF funds for development in mining affected areas. So you have created a fund, but how to use the money? Where to use the money? Who tells that? It is PMKKY. It is not the district collector is a discretionary power to utilize the fund for whatever the purpose he wants. No. This Yojana tells the district collector that what are the purposes he must be using the fund for. 70% of the fund that is collected should be used for high priority sectors which include health, education, drinking water, agriculture, livelihoods. 10% should be kept as an endowment fund because it is kept as a reserve fund because of the purpose to support the community after mining stops. If the mining is done, if the mineral is fully extracted, those people working in the mining area, they will become jobless. This fund should help them to rehabilitate or to find a job or to reskill them or whatever the way to help if they lose the job because of the stopping of mining. So that is about Pradhan Mantri Kshetra Kalyan Yojana. I told you NMET has been replaced with NMEDT. What is the difference? You should know the difference, that's all. Earlier, 2% of the royalty would have been given to NMET. What NMET used to do? As the name says, exploration. Right? 2% of the royalty would go to NMET. The money which is collected under NMET should be used to fund exploration. Right? To fund exploration for Geological Survey of India, and then MECL, it's also a Mineral Exploration and Consultancy Limited. No need to remember the name. Just you should know that NMET fund would be used to fund the exploration. right? Once you find the mine, then only you can lease it or auction it to get the money, right? So exploration is a financially costly exercise. So this trust would help for the purpose. Now the new one, NMEDT, what has changed? Instead of 2%, they have made it 3%. Royalty increased. Now there is a new word called development has been introduced. Development means under this NMEDT, they will fund for technological upgradation of exploration activities. Right? They have made it, they have fund the extra money to improve the infrastructure with respect to exploration. They will also fund it to improve the technological upgradation required for exploration activities. That is the term development indicate, right? So they will improvise the technological upgradation, as well as they will build necessary infrastructure required for exploration purposes. So NMET has been changed to NMEDT in the recent amendment of MMDR Act, amendment in 2025, right? So there is a recent Supreme Court ruling as well regarding mines. Maybe it can be a question for you. In 2024, Supreme Court ruled that whatever the royalty that is being collected by the mining company, it should be considered as a royalty, not as a tax. Royalty is not a tax. It is not a form of tax. So why this has been crucial? Why? Because as I told you, whatever the money that is been collected from the mines will go to state government. If it is considered as tax, also I told you that Parliament fixes the royalty, right? State governments collects the royalty, and it has all the authority to utilize it for its own purposes. It doesn't have to share the part of royalty with the central government. Now, if the royalty has been treated as tax, state government cannot impose anything over and above the royalty fee, because taxing above the tax is called cess or surcharge. State government does not have jurisdiction to impose a cess or surcharge. If the royalty has been treated as tax, then taxing upon tax is not the jurisdiction of state government. It is exclusive jurisdiction of central government. Right? To impose something on top of royalty, royalty must not be treated as tax. So the issue was in the court of the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that no, royalty cannot be treated as tax. Now what is the outcome? State governments can impose, if necessary, can impose an additional fee, additional tax over royalty, because royalty is not a tax, it is just a fee. Understood? That is, royalty is not a tax, it is just a fee, and state governments, by all means, they have the power to impose over an additional royalty or a tax, right? So that as per their need, nobody can stop them. That's the importance of this. And it is a 9-judge bench that is ruled this judgment. Constitutional bench, 9-judge bench ruled this judgment. That is why it can be important judgment for you. So to summarize that, under MMDR Act, who does what? Who fixes the royalty? Central government. When you talk about major minerals, who fixes the royalty? It is central government. Who collects it? State government. Who can revise? Again, central government. Maximum once in 3 years. When you talk about minor minerals, who will fix and collect both? It is state government. When you talk about atomic minerals, central government has exclusive jurisdiction over regulation of atomic minerals, granting the licenses, permitting it, everything is under central government. But the money out of it will go to state government. As the constitution says, entire mineral which is available within the territory of a state is owned by state government. Owner will get the money. Though the atomic minerals are regulated by the central government, the money that is been collected as royalty will go to the state government. Are you clear? Yes. In addition to these mineral related topics, I will have added certain other topics which can again can be important with respect to prelims. There is something called polymetallic sulphides. You might have heard about polymetallic nodules. Are they same or different? I will touch upon the topic as well. Let us focus on now polymetallic sulphides. So they have polymetallic sulphides, they are kind of deposits which contains various minerals in the form of the sulphide. Right? What are those minerals? Copper, right? Copper, zinc, gold, silver, lead and iron. I don't think you should remember all this. Just have a glance of them. Again, they are not rare earth elements or such like that. I will talk about what are rare earth elements. Just remember there are certain deposits of sulphide form contains these minerals. Silver and gold you can remember. Additionally copper. These three at least you can remember. On top of that we have iron also. If you can arrange based on the price, gold, silver and then copper and then iron. Lastly it is zinc. Okay. Now, where are they found? Near hydrothermal vents and mid-ocean ridges. They are found in the mid-ocean ridges. You know what are ridges? I don't have to explain that. Where the mineral-rich hot fluids from Earth's interior travel upward through cracks, that is through ridges in the ocean floor. When they meet the cool water, they will solidify and that creates deposits. Those are called polymetallic sulphides. So now the doubt arises, what are the differences between polymetallic sulphides and nodules? I will touch upon basic ones, right? So polymetallic nodules are mostly they are about ferromanganese, iron and manganese rich nodules. These are sulphides. These are ferromanganese nodules. Major difference is they are available on the sea floor, also called abyssal plain, right? They are scattered in a loose manner. But these polymetallic sulphides are available only around hydrothermal vents on oceanic ridges. Got it? And then polymetallic nodules, since they are found on the ocean floor, they are found only at greater depths. But these shallow water, right? Apart from that, there is nothing much. You can also know regarding what are the metals that are available under polymetallic nodules: manganese, nickel, copper, cobalt. Copper is common for both, right? In the polymetallic nodules, we don't get to see major portion of silver or gold, but in polymetallic sulphides, we have silver, gold, followed by copper and zinc and iron. That much you can know. But who grants permission to explore and mine those minerals? It can be polymetallic sulphides or nodules. It will be International Seabed Authority under UN clause law. Understood? Now, India's polymetallic sulphide mining. Why I have taken up this PMS topic is because of this reason. India has signed a new contract with International Seabed Authority to explore, it's not mining, it is exploring polymetallic sulphides in Carlsberg Ridge in the Indian Ocean region. Right? That is the reason I have taken up this topic. So, India has now two contracts for exploration of polymetallic sulphides. One is in the central Indian ridge place and the location. Other is Carlsberg Ridge location. Right? These are the two places India has got permission to explore polymetallic sulphides. It is the only country in the world with two separate PMS contracts. Right? That can be a question for you. So, just to know, right, where are these ridges are located? If you see this India, Yemen, we have Yemen here and we have Madagascar, and this is the ridge in the Indian Ocean region. This part is called Carlsberg Ridge, right, and this part is called Central Indian Ridge. So, these are two locations where India has been granted with exploration licenses for polymetallic sulphides, right? There is one more place in the news with regard to exploration of minerals in the ocean region, that is FNSA nicotine, FNSA nicotine. It is a seamount. It is neither a ocean floor region or a ridge region. It is a seamount region. You know what is seamount? I don't want to explain this. India is interested in the exploration of cobalt-rich ferromanganese crust on FNSA nicotine seamount. Don't have to remember the width and length of this in the Central Ocean region. India is still negotiating it. So the reason I put this point is to know this FNSA nicotine, the name FNSA nicotine, right? It is a seamount located in the Indian Ocean region. This is the place below Sri Lanka, much below Sri Lanka, right? Where there is a cobalt-rich ferromanganese minerals are available. India is negotiating with ISA to get the licensing for exploration, right? Now, that comes to one more act which is called Offshore Areas Mineral Act 2002. There is a separate act to mine offshore minerals. I told you, right? Offshore minerals near exclusive economic zone or jurisdiction of central government. Central government owns them, whatever the mining, leasing, mining leases, regulating the rules or fixing the royalty, collecting, utilizing the royalty, everything comes under central government, right? So that's all. So why it is in the news? The first auction has been made in 2024 to grant 13 offshore mineral blocks. So maybe that can be a different question. So you should just know that there is a separate act for granting offshore mineral licensing. It is not exactly under MMDR Act. Okay. So that we talked about various acts or legislations regarding minerals. Let us discuss certain minerals that can be important. We already discussed about limestone. Earlier limestone was a minor mineral, now it has been made a major mineral. Earlier limestone was divided as per the two purposes. It was considered as a major mineral based on its utilization. If it is used in cement, steel or lime production industry, it is considered as a major mineral. If it is just used in the purpose of construction as a building stone, it was considered as minor mineral. Now the distinction has been removed. Irrespective of its uses, it is now considered as major mineral, right? Rationalization of royalty rates. The slide is not for the reason of you must remember what is the royalty for which mineral, but for you to know the minerals in the news. That's all. Recently, the royalties has been rationalized for certain minerals, which are they? High grade graphite. There is a low grade graphite as well. High grade graphite is used in lithium ion battery as an anode material. Anode, cathode, you must be knowing this, right? High grade graphite is used as anode material in the lithium ion batteries. There is a low grade graphite is used in the steel making industry to increase the carbon content. There is cesium. Observe carefully, these can be in the news. Definitely they can ask, these are in the news. Definitely UPSC can ask this question. Cesium, it is used in the atomic clocks to define GPS time standard. Cesium is used in atomic. There are many other applications as well. It is practically not possible to remember every other application. That is why important one you must know. Rubidium, ceramics industry, and more important application is quantum computing. Rubidium is used in quantum computing field. Cesium is used in atomic clocks. High grade graphite is in lithium ion batteries and anode material, and then low grade graphite is in the steel industry. Zirconium. Zirconium is used in the nuclear sector, nuclear energy sector. It is used in nuclear reactor fuel cladding. Fuel cladding means whatever the fuel, you will be having the liners of the fuel. The liners of the fuel material is made up of zirconium. Remember this, they can ask the applications as well. Now, what are critical minerals? I already explained what are critical minerals. Critical because they are essential for economic development as well as national security. They are critical also because they face supply chain risk due to geographic concentration. They are concentrated heavily in certain areas where it gives them strategical advantage. That is why they are critical, right? They are critical because of their strategic importance as well as supply chain risk. India's situation, there are 30 critical minerals identified by India. 30 critical minerals are there. 24 of them listed in the Schedule 1 of the MMDR Act. India is almost 100% dependent on its need of these critical minerals. That means we lack infrastructure to explore, mine, process and use it for industrial purposes of these critical minerals. Though we have depositions available, we are entirely dependent on imports for these critical minerals. 2% of GDP is coming from mining sector, may not be so important for prelims. So certain critical minerals, key critical minerals can be important for prelims. They can ask their advantages. Lithium, electric vehicle batteries. Cobalt, cathodes. Graphite is used for anode of electric batteries, lithium batteries. Cobalt is also used as a cathode. Nickel, energy storage, again part of your battery storage. Graphite, battery anode. Rare earth elements. Rare earth elements are critical elements. Rare earth elements are critical elements, but otherwise is not true. Critical elements are not, all critical elements are not rare earth elements. Can be your CSAT question. Again, rare earth elements, major advantage of them is to manufacturing permanent magnets. Rare earth elements, major advantage is permanent magnets. Titanium in the defense sector. Cesium in the atomic clocks. Rubidium, again I told you, quantum computing area. Zirconium, nuclear reactor cladding. Vanadium, grid batteries. Again, all these are crucial because of your clean energy revolution that we are bringing. We want to be less dependent on the imported energy sources. We want to move towards clean energy sources. We are bringing electric vehicle revolution. So for that we need a storage technology as well. Not only generation, India is surplus with respect to renewable source of energy, but where is the storage infrastructure? We lack critical minerals. That is why these are in the news. Vanadium, grid batteries. Gallium, semiconductor industry. India wants to be global leader in the semiconductor industry. That is why gallium is important. Niobium, again steel industry. These key critical minerals, UPSC might ask its applications. So it's better to glance through once again. There is a dedicated national critical mineral mission. What is the mission about? This is announced in 2024-25 budget, right? So what are the components of the mission? Domestic exploration, boosting the exploration, especially lithium, graphite and rare earth elements which are deep seated and difficult deposits. Overseas acquisition, if the minerals are available across the borders, it allows the companies to acquire those mining licenses. That is about overseas acquisition. Value chain development, it's not only about exploring and mining. You should have infrastructure to process the mined material and you should be able to supply it to the necessary industries. Industries must make the final product out of it, right? India should not merely become the exporter of the raw material. Rather, it has to develop its own value chain so that it can convert the raw mineral to the final industrial product, so that we will become self-reliant and less dependent on external imports or external sources. Recycling and circular economy, no need to remember because not so important for prelims examination. Strategic stockpiling, not so important for prelims. This you may know, right? It provides domestic exploration, overseas acquisition, value chain development. So now what is the budget outline? 34,300. Who is contributing? Central government, public sector undertakings and as well as private sector. This mission is not entirely funded by government. There is also a private participation. That's about critical minerals. Now talk about rare earth elements. Rare earth elements. The word rare. The word rare means, that doesn't mean that they are found rarely. No, it is not that. Rare means they are, though the quantity of availability is huge, they are not found in one place. They are sparsely distributed. That is what they are called rare. Just like you might have seen one area, there is huge pile of Kudremukh mountains, the Kudremukh hills, we have a lot of iron and manganese who are deposited there. Likewise, you don't see rare earth elements depositions at a particular place concentrated in the highest quantity or like that. That is why it makes economically unviable to explore and mine these elements. That is why it is called rare earth elements. Right? Misleading, rare is misleading because they are actually not rare. Cerium, for example, is more abundant than copper itself. Right? Real problem, that is not found in economically mineable concentrations. Rare in viability, not quantity. Right? Here and there, they are just sparsely distributed. If you want to mine certain quantity of rare earth element, you should explore huge area and you should set up your infrastructure across huge area. That makes it economically unviable, right? So again, remember this monazite, you know monazite, right? There were certain questions regarding monazite as well. Monazite sand depositions we see in the coastal India, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, we have Tamil Nadu and Kerala. All this coastal area, we have rich monazite sand available. What is the importance of this sand? It contains very crucial rare earth elements along with thorium. Remember, it is component of phosphate in the phosphate form. All these rare earth elements and thorium available in the monazite sand in the phosphate form. What are those rare earth elements? Very important, cerium. Remember the application. Cerium is used as a glass additive. Cerium is used as a glass additive, available at a higher percentage. 30% of the monazite sand contains 30% of the rare earth elements. Among rare earth elements, 30% is cerium, lanthanum, camera lenses, battery technology, oil refining, lanthanum, neodymium, magnet. Remember this neodymium. If you forget any of this, it's fine. It's not fine. Worst case I'm talking about. Neodymium, at least remember the neodymium. Neodymium is used in rare earth, it is used in permanent magnets manufacturing. Permanent magnets, the magnets you see in electric vehicles, the magnets you see in hard disks, those are called permanent magnets. They are artificially manufactured magnets using these rare earth elements. That's why they are called permanent magnets. Right? Neodymium is a key element. Praseodymium, aircraft engines. Samarium, weapons, precision guided weapons. Samarium, precision guided weapons. Can you see defense industry, aircraft industry, battery technology, oil refining, all these are crucial industries. That is why rare earth elements are very, very important. Gadolinium in the MRI technology, right? So these are key rare earth elements available in the monazite in the form of phosphates along with thorium. So in the periodic table as well, this can be a UPSC question as well. All these rare earth elements are continuously placed in the periodic table. Their atomic numbers are sequential. Their atomic numbers are sequential between 57 and 71. Except these two, right? That is scandium and yttrium or yttrium, you can say. Don't remember all this. Just know that all of these rare earth elements are available in a sequential order in the periodic table. That means their atomic numbers are sequential except only two of them, right? 2026-27 budget, that is recent budget, announced rare earth corridors. Rare earth corridors across the coastal line of Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, where we find monazite sands. Especially focused on neodymium, which is used in the magnet manufacturing. That's why I told you to remember neodymium, right? Especially, it's not only about neodymium, but that is important mineral. Rare earth corridor again announced in 2026-27 budget for coastal states, focus on monazite bearing beach sands. It focuses on value chain development. That means from exploration to mining to processing and to manufacturing. Entire value chain must be developed across this coastal area. That is the reason. Especially neodymium for permanent magnets. Permanent magnets are very crucial with respect to electric vehicle motor manufacturing to reduce the import dependence on China. Right? Why rare earth corridors matter? Maybe prelims also focus on analysis part of it. Geopolitical security. We should be less dependent. The less dependency, more security. China controls 85% of global rare earth processing. Right. Electric vehicles and clean energy sector, very crucial. Economic value addition. India has to move from raw material export to processed rare earth output. It actually helps to multiply our export value and creates high skill manufacturing jobs. Monazite advantage. So, UPSC can ask what can be the advantage of rare earth corridors. These are the important ones. When you talk about monazite deposit, much we have discussed already. Apart from that, I told you it is a phosphate form and it is a reddish brown phosphate mineral. The color you are seeing here, it is a reddish brown phosphate mineral across beaches, etc. Cerium, lanthanum, neodymium, thorium. Yes. Why does it matter? It contains rare earth elements, especially neodymium, cerium, lanthanum, especially used in wind turbines, defense areas, electronics, semiconductor industry. Remember this, thorium, future nuclear fuel. India holds 25% of global thorium reserves. Right. That's all. Following that, we have something called rare earth permanent magnet scheme. So now we have rare earth corridor. We are exploring and mining them. But what about boosting the manufacturing of permanent magnets? Right. We need to manufacture them as well, right? So that is why REPM scheme has been introduced. Right. It is approved by the cabinet in 2005, but the amount allocated in the budget 26-27, that is why it can be important one. Rare earth permanent magnet scheme. So what is that? You don't have to remember the figures. What is the amount allocated and all? Which sector does it help? Electric vehicle and defense. The idea is to mine to magnet chain. India is merely exporter of the raw materials, but we want to become a manufacturer of finished goods to increase our export value. So along with the mineral topic, there is a subtopic, may not be so important, but additional to it, there are two reports, which is, one is Self-Reliance in Minerals and Metals report, that is 16th report. Self-Reliance in Minerals and Metals report issued by Standing Committee on Coal, Mines and Steel. UPSC would like to trap you here. They can give Niti Aayog or Ministry of Mines, etc. What is the use of this report, or what does the report say? Report says in which are the minerals we are self-sufficient and which are the minerals we are dependent on imports. Iron, bauxite, coal, manganese, etc. they are nearly self-sufficient. Minerals like lithium, cobalt, nickel, niobium and gallium, which are critical minerals, again we are 100% dependent. Right? And second report, which is about State Mining Readiness Index, SMRI, released by Ministry of Mines. State Mining Readiness Index, which are the states which are front runner with respect to providing mineral grants, increase the mineral exploration, etc. Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Gujarat, they are the top performance. I don't think they will ask about top performance, but they can ask about report, which body or which ministry or which agency releases these reports, and you may just know it. Don't have to read it in depth. Related to clean energy or green energy, we have some important concept upcoming, has come up in this current affair that is called Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM. In the context of our FTA, free trade agreement with European Union, CBAM has surfaced. What is CBAM? See, in the European Union, the polluting industries which are responsible for emissions of greenhouse gas, especially carbon dioxide, they were heftily fined. That is why those companies had to migrate to such countries where there is less regulation with respect to greenhouse gases emission. Got it? Now with free trade agreements, what's happening? Say some industry, let's say paper, steel, aluminium, cement, etc., has been migrated from, let's say, any European country to India, just because those countries used to heftily fine them. Now it is in India. Now there is a FTA. Now there is a custom-free exports the company can make. Is it not indirectly support? Is it not like European Union is indirectly supporting the greenhouse gas emission? Is it not a disadvantage for those companies situated in the European Union but has brought in lot of reforms to control their greenhouse gas emissions? Right? To provide the level playing field or to control the greenhouse gas emission, European Union trade agreement has brought in CBAM. In fact, European Union has brought this CBAM mechanism with all the countries which it is signing a FTA with. Right? What is CBAM then? CBAM refers to in imposing taxes if, even though there is an FTA has been signed, if a country or if a country is exporting certain products like cement, aluminium, steel, paper, etc., or textile, if that industry is found to be polluting, responsible for emission of greenhouse gases, especially carbon, European countries can impose fine or impose custom duty. Right? That is about carbon border adjustment mechanism. Got it? So if the industry is found to be polluting or responsible emission of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide, right? European Union countries, though they have signed FTA, they can impose additional custom duty or penalty on those industries. Right? What does CBAM do? Again, I told you, right? A trade and climate policy of the European Union, right? Taxes imports based on carbon emissions. Industries concerned are steel, cement, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity. Right. That's about it. So, India is affected as an exporter. So, India has to do something to keep up its advantage which it has gained through its FTA. Right. So, that means what? Even if there is an FTA has been signed, if the EU is going to continuously impose custom duties, and what is the use of FTA? India has to do something. So, India has responded. How? India has introduced CCUS initiative, carbon capturing, utilization and storage. Which are the companies or industries which are eliminating carbon dioxide? Capture the carbon dioxide, right? Utilize it for manufacturing various products, for example, plastic or road building material, etc. And if possible, store it as well. Where are they going to store it? In the abandoned oil wells or gas wells or mines, right? So, any of these mechanisms, carbon capture, utilization, storage, especially focusing on cement and steel industries, because those are the industries we are having an advantage with respect to exports to European Union countries. Second initiative government has taken is GEI Target Rules, Greenhouse Gas Emission Intensity Target Rules, GEI Target Rules of 2025. specifically meant for 208 industrial units. Government is going to impose strict standards or regulations with respect to greenhouse gas emission. These industries, especially aluminium, cement, textile, refining industry, etc., they must have to follow this. They have to reduce emissions by 3 to 7% by 2026-27, which is next financial year. If they cannot, they have to face penalties. So, CBAM mechanism, in response to that, India has introduced through two initiatives: carbon capture, utilization and storage, as well as GEI Target Rules. Right. Sectors covered are aluminium, cement, chlor-alkali, pulp and paper, iron and steel, fertilizer, petroleum refining, petrochemicals and textiles. I doubt that UPS is going to ask which are the sectors. Just remember the main one, that is cement, steel, aluminium, pulp and paper, etc. And one topic can attract UPSC's eyes, that is about cat bonds. It is not a cat, it is catastrophic bonds. Cat bonds, right, refers to catastrophe bonds. What are they? See, they are sovereign bonds, again guaranteed by the government itself. Right, you can sign up for a bond just like any other bond, right? You pay the money, you purchase the bond, you will get some certain interest, certain amount of returns. Just that you will purchase the bond specific to the reason of catastrophes. You subscribe to a bond for a certain amount of interest, you pay a certain premium, there will be certain tenure. Let's say 1 year you purchase certain bond, right? If in that year, if there is no catastrophe occurs, catastrophe, flood, cyclone, earthquakes, any of this catastrophe occur if the luck favors you, if that year you don't come across any such catastrophes, you will get your money, you will get your returns. If any of this catastrophe occurs and all the money had to be utilized to provide disaster relief, reconstruction, rehabilitation work, rescue, etc., then you would lose your money. It is betting against the catastrophe. It is an innovative way of raising money to counter the catastrophes, right? So, has it been approved? Not yet. Kerala government has proposed these catastrophe bonds to central government because Kerala is prone to a lot of such disasters every year, especially during the monsoon season, but government is yet to approve it. So, it's about cat bonds. So, when the disaster occurs, that's all. You will lose the money. If there is no disaster, then you will get the money. Under this section, there is the last topic, that is natural hydrogen. It is also called white hydrogen. So, hydrogen as a source of clean energy has been in the focus for a long time now. So, what is natural hydrogen? So, how the hydrogen has been extracted? It is extracted through H2O, because hydrogen is formed, it is found in H2O form, right, water form. So, we have to invest a lot for electrolysis process to separate hydrogen and oxygen. There you extract the hydrogen. Again, for the electrolysis process, you have to spend some energy. It's a costlier process. That makes hydrogen is not financially viable. So, this is natural hydrogen, where hydrogen is found in the free molecular form, not in the form of H2O, but in the free molecular form. So, you do not have to do any processing to separate hydrogen from any other molecule, rather you just have to extract and use it, that's all. Natural or white hydrogen occurs naturally underground due to geological processes. It is not manufactured. There are two geological processes which are responsible for free molecular hydrogen. It is serpentinization, radiolysis. You do not have to worry about what is serpentinization. Water reacts with ultramafic rocks in the deeper underground, releases hydrogen. Radioactive decay of the water molecules releases hydrogen. So serpentinization, what is ultramorphic rocks, you absolutely do not have to worry, right? So why it is important is zero emission fuel, very cost effective because you don't have to employ any electrolytic process which is very costly, and self regenerating, it is renewable, self regenerating. One more important point here is France, Moselle region of France is been identified as the world's largest white hydrogen deposit. France, Moselle region has been identified as the world's largest white hydrogen deposit. So that's about the topics regarding minerals, and this has been the highest priority topic. That is why I've been addressing it in the initial video itself. So let us move on to another hot favorite topic for UPSC, that is regarding macroeconomic federalism and monetary policy. So you can see, if you go through last 8 to 9 years of PYQ, there are a lot of questions coming from this particular topic. For example, if you can glance through them, consider the following statements about GST. There are some straightforward questions about GST. So it will replace multiple taxes, it will drastically reduce current account deficit, etc. So you might have all seen this PYQs. I am just glancing through them. If you really need this PPT, comment below the YouTube video so that I can able to forward it to you, right? So when you talk about GST reforms, right, which are the products exempted under GST, they talk about particulars of GST, and then there are questions regarding GST Council and the voting part of the GST Council. There are questions regarding 15th Finance Commission. Again, these are all part of economic federalism, Finance Commission of India, and with the 16th Finance Commission question as well. There are questions regarding public debt. There are a lot more. What is deficit financing? Right, questions regarding CPI, WPI. So we will cover current affairs regarding all these topics, which has got highest potential, followed by your minerals topic. Fine. Since this video is about current affairs, I'm not going to discuss the PYQs in detail, but this is just to show you how important topic is. Right. GST. Basics about GST, you all know. This is introduced through 101 Constitutional Amendment Act in 2016. There are three important articles. 246A, which talks about power of lawmaking, power of GST taxes lawmaking. It is concurrent jurisdiction. If there is any law, if there is any taxes that has been proposed by GST Council, if it has to be implemented, both state and central governments have to bring in their separate laws, right? Concurrent jurisdiction. Article 269A talks about interstate GST. 279 talks about establishment of GST Council. You all know that, right? There are three types of GST: CGST, SGST, and IGST. One more, UTGST talks about Union Territory, right? Again, CGST collected by center, SGST collected by state, IGST collected by center, but it is shared among the states, and UGST again, it is completely the jurisdiction of central government. GST Council, again you know that the chairperson is Finance Minister, members are State Finance Minister. Article 279A led to introduction of GST Council. And what is the voting pattern? So center has 1/3 power of voting, and rest of the 2/3 is combined states, right? So belongs to the states, overall all the states combined. If the decision has to be passed, it should be voted with 75% of majority, right? You all know these basics. One important thing, there is a Supreme Court case, which is Union of India versus Mohit Minerals case, where Supreme Court said that the GST Council recommendations, they are not binding on states. If the GST Council says that if some product is exempted from GST or some slabs have to be changed, it is not binding on states, right? So if the state government does not make a law for implementing those GST Council recommendation, it will not be introduced. As simple as that. Okay, that means what? GST Council decisions are recommendatory in nature, not binding, right? So, recent current affairs, there is a GST reform, GST 2.4 that is called as. So, that is about restructuring the slabs, right? So, reducing the number of slabs. Earlier there was 0, 5, 12, 18 and 28 plus cess. Now it has been reduced to 5%, 18% and 40%. So, now this 12% slab has been removed and 28% slab has been removed. 12 and 28 slabs have been removed and the slabs have been restructured to 5, 18 and 40%. So, which are the products included in all these slabs? I don't think you should know all of them, but you must know those products which are in the news, which are most debated in the parliament or which are most discussed in the news. Maybe you should know those products which I will take you through. And again, UPSC Prelims can also ask about impact. It's not only about factual. UPSC Prelims also focuses on analytical part of it. So earlier, so since the slabs have been reduced, slabs have been restructured, many of the products which are coming under, which were falling under 28% slab, they were moved into 18% slab, right? So there were so many products which were under 5% slab, they were exempted from GST. So likewise, there is a lot of restructuring of GST rates have been also done. So in the short term, there is opinion that it is going to cause estimated revenue loss of nearly 1 lakh crore rupees for the state governments, right? That is one analysis. Short term revenue pressure can be there, but in the longer term, with increased compliance, there is going to be a long term gain. So this part of analysis you must be aware. There are some important products which you must be knowing because these are in the news. Sanitary napkins 0%, life saving drugs 0%, electric vehicles again GST reduced to 5%, solar equipments, the GST has been concessionalized, the GST rates have been moved from 12% to 5%, right, for solar equipments. COVID essentials again 0%, right? Health and educational services, if you want to take an admission into any college, right, for academic purposes, GST will be 0. Similarly for health treatment. These are important items you must be knowing. Maybe UPSC is fond of asking some products which are in the news and which slab they belong to. Packaged and labeled food brought under GST. Packaged and labeled food means what? If the rice or any wheat or anything which is packaged and labeled and sold, earlier they were not part of GST, now it is brought under GST. Online gaming and casinos 40%. Online services, increasing regulation and taxation falls under 18%. Any online services, right, falls under 18% GST. Maybe these things, some of these, I don't think, like, I'm not saying that only these will be asked, but to help you to eliminate most obvious items, these are the ones, because these are much talked about in the news as well as in the parliament sessions. Items kept out of GST. Again, this is our basics. So, which are the items that are out of the ambit of GST? Items kept out of GST does not mean that they are exempted from GST, right? Exemption is different from keeping out of GST. Exemption means it is 0% GST. Keeping out means GST does not even consider them, right? Which are they? Petroleum products, crude oil, central customs duty on import, diesel, central excise plus state VAT, that is value tax, natural gas, again central excise plus state VAT, petrol, again central excise plus state VAT, aviation turbine fuel, again central excise plus state VAT. So this will be applied, GST won't be applied. Other exclusions, alcohol for human consumption, entirely state government jurisdiction. Electricity, again entirely state government jurisdiction, state electricity duty only applied. Real estate, that is your stamp duty, property tax, etc., all that comes under state governments. So these things, importantly, they are kept out of GST. Got it? So UPSC hot favorite topic is GST. Whether it can be prelims or mains, you must be knowing these things. So there is a mnemonic as well. You can remember it as peace. petroleum, electricity, alcohol, crude oil, estate. That refers to real estate, right? There is a discussion regarding GST compensation. Since GST was introduced in 2017, so there were assertions of state governments. There were panic in the state governments that they are going to lose their revenue, right? So they are going to lose their rightful revenue, which are part of services and goods, right? So central government promised the state governments that, okay, we will compensate to your revenue loss. Central government said that we will estimate the loss by calculating GST growth year on year, that is with 14%. If the GST does not grow 14% year on year, whatever the mismatch amount, that will be considered as loss, and whichever the state that is suffering loss will be compensated, because GST is called as supply side. GST is called as destination tax. The source states might suffer losses. That is why central has taken the state governments into confidence, so it has proposed the compensation. GST compensation was proposed for 5 years, right, from 2017 to 2022. So what is the current status? Compensation regime has ended, right? 2022 onwards, whatever the losses, if the state governments have suffered, the central government is not going to compensate them. So to compensate that, government had created compensation fund, right? GST compensation fund, and for that government introduced compensation cess also. GST compensation cess. Now the cess is still being collected. Though the compensation regime has ended, the compensation cess is still being collected. Why? Because, see, during the COVID times, state governments had suffered huge GST losses and they blamed the central government. Central government had to keep its promise. The losses were not because of GST failure, rather it was because of economic slowdown. Central government had to keep its promise. Central government adhered to the promise. It fulfilled the losses. But how did the central government manage the money? Central government took loan, right? So now, since the GST compensation regime has ended, still the government has to pay back the loans it has taken to compensate the GST losses. So to pay back that loan, GST cess is still being collected. Cess is likely to continue till March 2026. So though the GST compensation regime has ended, GST compensation cess is still being continued. Got it? Right. That's about GST for you. Next, 16th Finance Commission is much talked about. It is set up in 2023 to propose the formula for vertical and horizontal distribution of net divisible pool of taxes collected by central government. You all know the basics of Finance Commission. For the period of 2026-2031, we needed the tax distribution formula. For that, Finance Commission has been constituted. So again, the Finance Commission has been constituted under constitutional provision as per Article 280. So we have its recommendations now, right? So first of all, who is the chairman of 16th Finance Commission? It is Arvind Panagaria, who is former vice chairman of Niti Aayog, right? So what are its recommendations? So the Finance Commission recommended 41% of vertical devolution of states. What is vertical devolution? The sharing of taxes between central and state government. It's called vertical devolution. Horizontal devolution means sharing of taxes between different states. That's called horizontal devolution, right? So 41% of vertical devolution has been recommended by the 16th Finance Commission. So demanded was 50%. But the states are arguing that effective devolution will be just 32%. Effective devolution will be just 32%. It will be not 41%. What is this? Maybe it's much deeper. You never know, UPSC might ask in prelims itself. For example, let's say if the divisible tax pool is there, plus there are taxes which cannot be divided, right? Which it exclusively belongs to the central government jurisdiction, which are called cess and surcharge. Got it? So if you combine all this, right, so it will become much bigger. that is bigger than T, that is greater than divisible pool, right? So the Finance Commission says 41% of this divisible pool must be shared with the states. But if you add cess and surcharge, the total divisible tax will fall down to 32%. That is why the state government is saying that this is not enough. Okay, that's a part. So what does Finance Commission do? Tax devolution, grants in aid, fiscal rules. It will set deficit limits, fiscal deficit limits, borrowing rules, how much a government must borrow, fiscal discipline norms, right? How to spend, where to spend, these things will be suggested by the Finance Commission. And it also talks about funds for the panchayats and municipalities, that is third tier government, that is local government. So these are the functions of Finance Commission. So now we talked about vertical devolution. Now what about horizontal devolution? So we know that it is going to share 41% of net divisible tax pool with the states. But how is it going to be distributed among the states? There is a formula, right? Always Finance Commission gives a devolution distribution formula. It has certain parameters. First parameter is income distance, right? Every parameter has a weightage, right? Income distance means the income difference between rich state and the state under consideration. So that will be given 42.5% of weightage. That means the poorer states are given more priority. Got it? So income distance will be given 42.5% of weightage. 2011 population will be given 17.5% of weightage. Only these two weightages are different. Rest all 10%. Easy to remember. Which are they? Area, forest cover, demographic performance, GDP contribution. So these five were already there. These five parameters were already considered in the erstwhile Finance Commissions as well. But only new parameter is introduced, that is GDP contribution, that is the new parameter. That is to reward richer states because they have performed well, they have been more efficient, they were able to bring in the trust among the economic participants, they are able to produce more for the country, that is why they are being rewarded. So these are the parameters and their weightages. This can be very important question. So what are the other recommendations made by Finance Commission? It caps the fiscal deficit for the state governments to maximum of 3% of GSDP. It also puts brake on off-budget borrowings. It says no off-budget borrowings. It also suggests to privatize discoms. It also warns on the expenditure on freebies. Again, this can be for your mains. I don't think this is potential for your prelims examination. But what is important, the Finance Commission suggests adding heat waves and lightning under disaster management. For example, why is it so important? Because to seek relief under NDRF fund, the state governments, if they want to seek relief under NDRF fund, earlier these two disasters were not included. Since now heat waves and lightning are included as disasters, now for these reasons the state governments may approach the central government to seek money or funds from NDRF, National Disaster Relief Fund. So this can be a prelims question. Which are the new disasters have been added or included by Finance Commission, right? Which could help. How is it going to help? It is going to help the state governments to seek funds under NDRF. Got it? Again, very important. What are the key differences between 15th Finance Commission and 16th Finance Commission recommendations? The basic vertical devolution, there is no difference. But the 14th Finance Commission had made it 42%. The 15th Finance Commission reduced it to 41%. It has been continued by 16th Finance Commission as well. Now, income distance, if we talk about, earlier the weightage for income distance was 45%. Now it has been reduced to 42.5%. Can be a question. Population of 2011, according to 2011 census, the weightage earlier was 15%. Now it is increased to 17.5%. Right? I don't want to analyze it. You know how to analyze this, but I am just pointing on the facts. Area, the weightage of area has been reduced. That means even though state is larger, there is no benefit for that. Forest and ecology, the forest cover has been rewarded. The weightage has kept to be same, not changed. Demographic performance, how the state is implementing or how the state is bringing in human development, right? That's about demographic performance. That has been reduced to 10% from 12.5%. Fiscal effort, which was given 2.5% weightage in the 15th Finance Commission, has been removed in the 16th Finance Commission, right? So the fiscal effort refers to whatever the efforts that have been put by the state governments to improve the tax collection, to reduce the fiscal deficit, etc. So that can be asked in the prelims examination. And very, very important, that is about GDP contribution, which was not there in the earlier Finance Commission recommendations, but 16th Finance Commission recommends to include the parameter, that is GDP contribution with the weightage 10%. Right. So comparison of 15th and 16th Finance Commission is very, very important. I am sure you are making note of it. Going forward, again there is a huge discussion regarding India's public debt, right? All the opposition parties are making a lot of hue and cry about growing Indian public debt. So there can be a question regarding the same, right? So if you talk about the public debt, it amounts to nearly 80 to 82% of our GDP for the year 24-25. So among this 80 to 82%, 57% of the public debt belongs to central government, 22 to 23% of the debt belongs to state government. So combined, it will be more than 80%. And one more thing about the public debt is, nearly 96% of the public debt is sourced from domestic sources. That means borrowed from within the country, right? That means what? Only 3 to 4% of the debt comes from outside. That is called external debt. So why is this important? See, when you talk about currency risk, since we also have to discuss about depreciation of currency, that is against Indian currency against dollar, right? So what is the currency risk involved with respect to India's public debt? See, since the external debt amounts to only 4%, the dollar, the value of the depreciation of rupee against dollar does not affect much. The currency risk for our public debt is very, very minimal. That means our public debt is more secure and stable. That is the point here. So, is there any legal framework that binds the government to limit the public debt? Yes. That's called FRBM Act. That is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management. Again, that is basics. So, as per this act, the act limits the public debt to 60% of GDP. That is combined public debt. Means 40% of center, 20% of state. That is the target. So all of you know, by this time the target is not yet reached, but we have breached the target. Now it is around 82%. Now, so there is some basic point here. Is there any legal framework to bind the governments from the public debt? Yes, that is FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. It limits the governments to limit their public debt. That means it caps the public debt to 60% of GDP. That is 40% of center and 20% of states. So by this time you all know that we have breached the target. We have not attained it yet. But 2026-27 budget proposes to reduce the public debt, that is central. I am talking about central government public debt to 50 plus or minus 1% by 2031. Currently, central government debt is nearly 57%. Right. So the central government has promised or has put a target in the current budget to reduce the public debt to 50 plus or minus 1% by 2031. That can be a question. So fiscal deficit target and all we'll discuss later. Don't worry that. Analyzing the public debt situation. Why is high debt a concern? Again, prelims questions can be analytical type. It will lead to crowding out effect. Means what? If the government borrows more from the domestic sources, the private participants will have no means to source the debt or source the loan, right? Debt servicing becomes difficult. If the government takes loan now, it has to pay interest every year, right? That means what? It will eat into productive spending budget, fiscal inflexibility. If the government has huge burden on paying interest, then the government has no freedom to allocate the money for required causes, right? Rating pressure, the sovereign rating of the country will suffer because the country is ridden in so much of public debt, means the sovereign credit rating is going to suffer. So let's move on to another important topic, that is CPI. Let us touch upon the basics, right? So it is used for RBI inflation targeting. RBI is interested, or it is responsible to manage the inflation rate within the range of 2 to 6%. That is 4 plus or minus 2%. Who publishes CPI? NSO. How often? 12th of every month. So there is also a question regarding dearness allowance. Dearness allowance is calculated for central government employees and pensioners based on CPI IW, not CPI, it is CPI IW. IW stands for industrial workers. It is different because it is released by Labor Bureau, that is Ministry of Labor and Employment. Right. So CPI is also used as national income deflator, right, to convert the nominal income into real income, or to convert the nominal GDP into real GDP, we need to deflate the prices. CPI is the measure. Now, there are two types of inflation, that is headline and core inflation. Headline includes food plus fuel used by RBI for targeting. Core inflation excludes food and fuel. So it denotes structural inflation. It is also called structural inflation. You know the reason? So there are new changes introduced as a CPI calculation. The base year is changed to 2024, right? Earlier it was 2012, now it is changed to 2024, right? So there are more number of items have been included, right? And for proper calculation, right, we have increased the number of groups or the categories of the items that are part of CPI. Very, very important, weightage of food products have been reduced from 46% to 37%. Most of the times when the CPI is high, the reason will be high food inflation, right? So now the food products weightage has been reduced from 46 to 37%. So these are important things. And also e-commerce prices, OTT subscriptions, rail and fuel admin data, again not so important. These are very miscellaneous. I don't think UPSC Prelims is going to ask these things. And CAPA, it is basis of computer assisted personal interviewing. This is the means of collecting the data. So I don't think it's going to be important for your prelims examination. So these three things: increase the number of items, new classification, reducing the weightage of the food products, that can be very that can be crucial for the prelims. And prelims may also ask about trends. There are so many questions in the past. Prelims focuses on trends. If you talk about trend of CPI for the last year, like previous 1 year, it has been remained under 4%. The blue color line that you see, that is headline CPI. The orange color that you see, that is food inflation, right? So it has always been remained under 4%, right? So that means the inflation has been under control. And the food inflation is the major reason for the movement of CPI. If the food inflation comes down, can you see CPI comes down, the food inflation goes high, CPI goes high. Look at this. Only the February data, though the food inflation graph or curve has gone above, the CPI curve has not gone above. That means what? The weightage of the food products has been reduced. That is why food inflation is no more a major influencer, though it is a significant influencer, but its influence has been reduced. That's the thing. That's about CPI. And there is a talk about WPI as well, right? India is going to transition from WPI to PPI. What is WPI? Wholesale price index, and PPI is producer price index. So India is planning to transition. There is a committee, formed under chairmanship of Ramesh Chand by DPIIT, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Ramesh Chand committee. When you hear this, you think about PPI, right? That is producer price index. So what are the differences between PPI and WPI? Look at this graph. Sorry, look at this table. At what stage the price will be measured? For WPI, it is at the wholesale stage, but for PPI, it is much earlier, producer stage. That means what? Wholesaler can add his percentage of profit, and there can be certain indirect taxes paid by the wholesaler, right? So that will add to the price of the product, where in WPI. But in PPI, there is no wholesaler involved at all. So indirect taxes won't impact the PPI prices, as well as there is no profit margin of wholesaler involved. That is why it exactly reflects the price of the product at the production stage. I mean, at the produce stage. It is produced, it is ready to come to market. At that level, we will get to know exactly what is the price. As I told you, indirect taxes are included in WPI at the wholesale level, but excluded in PPI, right? Trade margins of wholesaler included in WPI, excluded in PPI. Accuracy is low in terms of WPI. Global usage, most G20 countries use PPI methodology, right? So the base here is still under consideration. So these are the differences between WPI and PPI. Again, there is a trend. What is the trend of WPI? The blue line, that is WPI. The orange, WPI food index. So food is not major, deciding factor for WPI. You just know the range, that's all. So has WPI been negative? Yes, it has been negative. Right? UPSC ask these questions. Has it been to negative territory? Yes, it has been to negative territory. And it has not reached any maximum levels in the last 12 months. So no need to worry. But in the last 12 months, has it been negative ever? Yes, it has been negative ever. It has been negative once. Again, major reason is reduction in the food prices. Maybe that is because of good monsoon. Now, they may even ask the trend of WPI and CPI combined. So this orange line denotes CPI. I have taken the reference of last 10 years. Right. So if you talk about CPI, has it ever reached double digits? Yes, it has reached double digits. Has it been ever negative? No, CPI has not been ever negative. Has the WPI been into double digit area? Yes, it has been into double digit area. Has it been ever negative? Yes, it has been negative twice. These things are important. So are they correlated each other? That means what? If the WPI rises, CPI also rises. If the WPI falls, CPI also falls. No such correlation. Look at this. Though the WPI is at its peak, CPI has come down. Got it? So there is no such a strong correlation between WPI and CPI. This can be a question with respect to trend. That's about WPI, CPI and PPI. Let us come to MPC, that is Monetary Policy Committee. Talk about basics. It is a statutory body under RBI Act of 1934. Right. So, composition of Monetary Policy Committee, RBI side 3 members, government side 3 members, there are 6 people. Among this, RBI governor is the chairperson, deputy governor of monetary policy and one RBI official. Again, they don't ask who is this and all, what is the designation of the member and all. You just know that RBI governor is the chairman. And government side 3 members, 3 external experts appointed by the government. There are other details also about them. Term is only 4 years. There is no reappointment. They cannot be appointed again. How frequently it is going to meet? 2 months once. How the decision has been made? Majority vote basis. The governor also has a casting vote. If the voting becomes tie, governor can do his casting vote. Is it binding on RBI? Yes, it is binding on RBI. Right. So though the Monetary Policy Committee meets every 2 months, it is mandated to meet at least 4 times a year. That means, as per the RBI Act of 1934, MPC is mandated to meet at least 4 times a year. That means what? 3 months once. But MPC, is meeting every 2 months. It is meeting six times a year. Right. That's about basics of MPC. So, what are the tools of Monetary Policy Committee? Repo rate, repo rate, reverse repo, CRR, SLR, OMO, open market operations, where the RBI is going to buy or sell the bonds, and then marginal standing facility. What is MSF? It is emergency borrowing window above repo rate. Right? If the banks have lost all the quota to borrow the money as per the repo rate, right? If they don't have any collaterals, right, still they require money for overnight borrowing, they can resort to MSF facility. But MSF interest rate is going to be higher than repo rate because it's a penal interest rate, right? The banks are going to be penalized for not managing their finances well. There is one more thing, standing deposit facility, SDF, standing deposit facility, right? Introduced in April 2022, standing deposit facility, right? It is the interest rate paid by the RBI, right? SDF is introduced to absorb the excess liquidity from the banks. If the RBI finds out that there is excess of money flowing in the banks, it can, it has introduced SDF facility. So there is one more called SDF, that is standing deposit facility, introduced by RBI in 2022. Why? To absorb excess liquidity from the banks. That means what? If there is excess money, banks can park that money overnight with the RBI. Right? RBI is going to pay them interest that is above reverse repo rate. Reverse repo is the interest paid by the RBI to the banks, right? But this under SDF facility, the interest rate is going to be higher. Now you can ask me, sir, then why will banks deposit money under reverse repo rate? By default, they will go with the SDF. But there is a catch here. What is that? Under a reverse repo rate, if the RBI takes money from the banks and pays interest of 3.35%, RBI puts government securities as collateral with the banks. RBI puts or keeps government securities as collateral with the banks when the RBI borrows the money under reverse repo rate. But if the RBI observes the liquidity under standing deposit facility, it is not going to keep any collateral with the banks. Any government securities will be put as collateral with the banks. That is why the interest rate will be higher than reverse repo rate. That is the difference between reverse repo rate facility and standing deposit facility. Are you getting it? So what are the types of monetary policy stance? These terminology will be hearing the news every now and then. Accommodative stand means the repo rate is gradually getting reduced. Contractionary or tightened monetary policy stand means slowly the repo rate is getting increased. Neutral means Monetary Policy Committee has neither increased the repo rate nor it has decreased the repo rate. Calibrated tightening means slowly, gradually the rates are going to be increased, calibrated, well thought out. Withdrawal of accommodation. Withdrawal of accommodation also means it is again much slower tightening of the repo rate. Right? It has accommodation means it has reduced it very much. Slowly it is withdrawing it. Slowly it is increasing or started to increase the repo rate. Recent trend, if you talk about, during the COVID times, repo rate was as low as 4%. Right? But when the inflation got increased, right, RBI had to absorb the excess liquidity. Right? So the repo rate has increased. Right? It has been kept at 6.5%. From when? From around Feb 2023 to around November 2024. For more than 1.5 years, it is called neutral stance. This is called tightening or contractionary. After November 2024, slowly, gradually, RBI has started to accommodate. It has taken accommodationary or accommodatory policy stands for MPC. Right now, it is getting reduced slowly. Right. So now it is nearly 5.25%. Report is nearly 5.25%. That's about MPC. Right. Now, variable rate reverse repo. It is also in the news. Variable rate reverse repo means what? Means, reverse repo rate. It is the tool to absorb the excess liquidity. What is variable rate reverse repo? Right. Under variable rate reverse repo, RBI announces that it is going to absorb the liquidity. How much amount? RBI says, okay, I'm going to take some 10,000 crore money. Banks will bid. I have this much money, I'm going to give you. You give me this much of interest. If bank A proposes 8% interest, bank B proposes 3%, 7%, bank C 6%. The lowest bids are considered. The lowest bids are considered till the limit that is been proposed by RBI. If the 10,000 crore is the limit, bank A says 3,000 crore, I'm going to propose for 8% interest rate. Bank B tells that no, I have 7,000 crore rupee with me. I am going to give it for 6% interest rate. Likewise, the lowest bid will be considered. Lowest bids will be considered, and then the last lowest bid will be kept as standard interest rate. That means the interest rate has been decided based on bidding. That's all. That is why it is called variable. The bids, the interest rate is going to be decided based on the bids. That is why it is called variable rate reverse repo. Got it? So what is the difference between VRRR and reverse repo? Rate VRRR, it is market driven or variable. Reverse repo is fixed. Duration. Reverse repo is overnight. That is part of LAF, right? Liquidity Adjustment Facility. That is for overnight. Today, between today and tomorrow, if I have excess cash, I will park it in the RBI. If I have no money, if I have less money, I will borrow it from RBI. That overnight transaction happen under reverse repo facility. But this variable rate reverse repo, the duration is, it can be 7, 14 or it can be 28 based on RBI's call. VRR has high flexibility. Who controls? Banks control. Reason, again, both are same reasons. Repo rate, reverse repo is also for absorbing liquidity. VRRR is also to absorb the liquidity. That's about VRRR. How VRRR works, we just discussed. Right. Now, there is one more concept, weighted average call rate. Weighted average call rate. Call market rate? Call market is a short-term market, overnight market. So, what is weighted average call rate? For example, if the banks fall short of some cash or banks have excess cash, they will do lending and borrowing with each other. They will do lending and borrowing with each other. Right. So, what RBI does is, RBI calculates the weighted average of all these rates. Weighted average of all these rates. Right. That will be weighted average call rate. Banks, if they have less money, less cash, they will borrow. If they have more cash, they will lend. This lending and borrowing happens with certain interest rate, right? Right. So, over a period of time, that means overnight. Reference is overnight. Per day, the RBI calculates WACR. At what rate and what quantity? Weighted means quantity. At what rate and what quantity banks are transacting with each other. Weighted average call rate. Got it? So now, if weighted average call rate is more than repo rate, this can be a prelims question. Weighted average call rate is more than repo rate. It means banks are transacting with each other with higher interest rates. If the interest rate is high, means what? Money supply is less. That means what? Banks short of cash. Now, that is a signal for RBI to inject liquidity. That is why RBI monitors this WACR, weighted average call rate. Right? If the interest rate is higher than repo rate, that means it shows shortage of cash. The RBI will inject the money. If the WACR is less than repo rate, if the banks are lending for lesser than repo rate, it means there is a lot of cash with the banks. Now, RBI thinks that, okay, it is time to absorb the liquidity. Right? That's about WACR. That's about it, nothing more. So what is the ideal situation? RBI wants WACR to stay close to repo rate. If it is staying close to repo rate, means the cash is balanced. There is no excess cash as well as there is no shortage of cash. So next, there is a huge discussion regarding internationalization of rupee. Right, we want to get away from the hegemony of the dollar. Right, we want to keep our economy as sovereign as possible. There comes a discussion of internationalization of rupee. What is the meaning of internationalization of rupee? That means what? To reduce the dollar dependence, especially in our external trade as well as in our forex reserves. We want to get away from the heavy dependence on the dollar, right? So that means what? If the countries have to transact between each other, India and Russia for example, we have to transact in our local currencies rather than depending on a third currency, right? So under that we have three types of accounts for your prelims: Nostro, Ostro and Loro. Nostro account, Ostro account and Loro account. What is Nostro account? Our account with them. Means what? There is a Indian bank has opened an account in Russia, Nostro account, right? So Indian company exports something to Russia. Now the Russia, whatever the company importing India's goods have to pay back, right? Now that company does not pay back into Indian bank or does not pay in rupee, but rather it will pay in their own currency and it will deposit the Nostro account in their own country. Understood? Indian bank has opened an account in Russia, that's called Nostro account. Why is it being used? Let's say Indian company is exporting something to Russia. The Russian company which is importing, it has to pay back. Earlier what they used to do, they used to change it to the dollar and dollar to the rupee. Now what happens? They will deposit their local currency equivalent of the trade value in the Nostro account of Indian bank, which is located in Russia. It will be in Russian currency only. So it will be there. Then how is it going to be used? For example, if I am importing something from Russia, what I will do is, I will pay from that money. Got it? Or if I am investing something in Russia, I will invest through that account. So there is one more account called Ostro account. It means your account with us. That means what? A Russian bank opens an account in India. Got it? So that means what? If a Russian exporter is exporting something to India, the Indian importer will pay equal amount of money in Indian rupee and deposit the money in Indian Ostro account. Russian bank has opened an account in India in rupee denomination. Got it? So if there is an exporter exporting some goods to India, the person importing those goods is going to pay equal amount of rupee, right? And he is going to deposit the rupee in the Ostro account. It is Russian exporter money located in India in rupee denomination. So how is that guy is going to be benefited? If that guy is importing something from India, he is going to pay from that Ostro account. Or if that guy is investing something in India, he is going to invest in India through the money that is there in the Ostro account. So by which we have reduced the dependency on the third currency, Nostro and Ostro. Are you clear? And third type of account, that is called Loro account, means their account with them. Means what? Let's say SBI has a Nostro account in Russia, but there is other bank called ICICI. It does not have a Nostro account in Russia, but it has to do some transactions in Russia. For that purpose, ICICI Bank is going to use this Nostro account. Got it? So that is called Loro account. It is going to park the money in the SBI's Nostro account. That is why it is called Loro account. ICICI does not have its own Nostro account, but it is going to use existing Nostro account of some other bank. Nostro, Ostro and Loro. Hope you are clear. Right? If you don't understand anything, let me know. Comment in the comment below the video so that I can respond to it actively. Fine. So we already talked about differences. there is something called special rupee escrow account. You know escrow account, right? The foreign bank is going to open an account in India, right? The money will be in terms of rupee, right? So whatever the trade transactions with that foreign entity can happen through this escrow account. The special rupee escrow account, again, this is specifically meant for settlement of trade related transactions. Trade related transactions. The other normal escrow account can be used for many other purposes, not only meant for trade, but this special rupee escrow account, it is specifically meant for trade settlements, right? A foreign bank account in India where money is kept in rupees for trade settlement. Understood? So there are certain provisions can be important for the prelims made by RBI for SVRA. First thing is RBI removed approval for requirement. It means what? Banks can now open SVRA directly without RBI permission. Banks do not have to take RBI's permission to set up SVRA account. Now, the money in SVRA account can now be invested in corporate bonds as well as commercial papers. Right? I think you know what is corporate bond, commercial paper. The money that is part of SVRA account can be invested back into corporate bonds and commercial papers. Also into treasury bills and G securities. So these are the important things. Can be, potential for your prelims, right? What is SVRA and recent provisions made by RBI with respect to SVRA. That's about it. Now let us move on to rupee depreciation. So there is a huge talk regarding Indian rupee depreciation. The rupee is continuously falling. So I am just putting a trend graph here. This is a 15-year trend graph, right? So in 2010, it was nearly 45. Now it has been doubled. In the last 15 years, the rupee has been almost doubled, or its value has been reduced to half against dollar. Now the current value of the rupee is nearly 95 to 94 to 95, right? It is just oscillating between those values. And there are some basics: depreciation and devaluation. You must be knowing that, right? Depreciation, market driven; devaluation, imposed by the government or authority. Indian exchange rate is of the type managed float system. Yes, it is market linked, but if there is necessary, RBI is going to intervene to sell or buy the forex or the dollars to manage the currency value. So why the rupee is falling? Capital outflows. Foreign portfolio investors are taking out the money to USA. What happens during the crisis times? Right? Investors prefer to park their money in the most stable economy. That is one of the reasons why the rupee is flowing, the dollar is flowing out of Indian market. That is one reason. If the dollar is going out of Indian market, means what? The demand for dollar is going to be increased against rupee. If the demand for dollar is going to be increased against rupee, means the value of dollar is going to be increased against rupee. High imports. India is an import dependent country. Again, if there are more imports, then again there is a more demand for dollar. Trade deficit, huge trade deficit. Since India is import dependent country, we have a trade deficit and we have to pay the trade deficit by dollar. So again, demand for dollar is very high. Speculation, exemption, expectations. So since the dollar value is increasing against the rupee, the traders speculate, right? So they will start selling the rupee and buying more dollar. Speculations leads to more demand for the dollar against rupee. And global factors, strong dollar. And Federal Bank of USA is continuously increasing the Fed rate, right? So that is again, more strong and more trustworthy investment opportunity for the international investors. So they are taking out the money and going back to invest in treasury bills of USA, since the government is increasing the interest rate. So these are certain factors responsible for rupee depreciation. So prelims, definitely they are going to ask what can be the possible reasons for a rupee depreciation. So what is government is going to do, or what is RBI is going to do? Forex intervention, right? So RBI is going to sell the dollars, right, to balance it out. It's not that RBI is going to artificially manage it. But the thing is, the sudden fluctuations can be avoided. If it is gradually increasing or gradually decreasing, we can make plans accordingly. But RBI, what it does is, it will avoid or control sudden fluctuations by intervening the forex market, right? So to balance out the rupee value against the dollar, RBI is going to sell the dollar, buy the rupee, so that the rupee demand artificially goes high. Attract dollar inflows, attracting more and more foreign deposits. We are opening up more and more sectors for the foreign direct investment. Interest rate policy, RBI has kept, you might have seen, RBI has kept interest rate steady at 6.5%. Because more interest rate, there is a more attraction for the government bonds, right? And similarly, recently, to accommodate the growth, RBI is accommodating the interest rate. That means it is gradually reducing it. SRBS systems, bringing in more reforms. I told you, special rupee escrow accounts, right, to reduce the dependency on the dollar, so that the demand for the dollar against rupee is not going to increase. If we demand more and more dollar, that means automatically the dollar price will go high against rupee, right? So we have to reduce the dependency on the dollar, right? That means what? We have to trade in local currencies, right? So that is why SRB account is also one of the measures to control the falling of rupee. And long-term structural fixes. Long-term fixes, that means we want to become self-reliant, less import dependent, diversifying our supply chain. All these things are long-term structural reforms. Those are all the measures taken by RBI and central government to control the falling of rupee, right? Now talk about impacts, right? What are the impacts of rupee depreciation? When you talk about negative impact, imported inflation, dollar rate is going very, very high, then the imported goods are going to be more costlier. Import bill rises sharply. Trade and exports, the CAD, current account deficit, is going to be widened. Subsidy burden, for example, fertilizers, right? If you are importing fertilizer or ammonia, that means you are paying very high amount, but you cannot pass on the burden of increased prices on the farmers. So government has to intervene. So it has to pay more to compensate the higher price through subsidies. That is a burden, fiscal deficit, fiscal burden. Again, loan payment is going to be difficult because we have to pay more if because dollar value is going to go high. External borrowings becomes very costlier. Common people, again, inflation is going to affect. FPI outflows. If the dollar strengthens, again, more and more people tend to buy dollars, right? FOMO. So it will lower the value of your rupee. What is the positive impact? Again, domestic goods relatively cheaper. Imported goods, compared to the imported goods, relatively domestic goods are going to be cheaper. So people tend to buy more and more domestic products. Again, it is a modest impact. Indian exports becomes competitive, right? They're going to become cheaper. Again, in a modest way, higher customs revenue on imports, because imports custom duty will be imposed on the value of the product. So dollar value is going to be very high. It is increasing, right? That is why the custom duty also as a percentage will increase. IT services, pharma, textiles, revenue boost, because these are export oriented industries, right? If the exports become competitive, these sectors become more revenue. Their revenue is going to go increase. NRI families get more rupees per remittance, right? Dollar is going to be sent to India because the dollar value is very high. There is going to be more rupee. FDI may increase because of cheaper Indian assets. Earlier, someone is investing $100, is going to get some exquisite amount of product here, or land or ownership. Now the same amount is going to get him more in terms of ownership, in terms of product, etc. So it may increase FDI. So again, prelims is going to ask tricky impacts, negative or positive impacts. I have tried to bring those tricky things so that you don't want to miss it out, because these are very fundamental questions. These should be like straight hit, right? That you just have to smash it to the sixers, so you should not miss it. I told you what are the measures taken by government and RBI. So other important topic is global minimum tax. right? So under BEPS framework, that is Base Erosion and Profit Sharing Framework, which is part of OECD and G20 countries. You know what? Which are OECD countries? Which are G20 countries? This is hot favorite for UPSC, right? Is India part of OECD countries? Right? You should know all these things. Comment below if India is part of OECD country. Now, what is base erosion and profit sharing? Right? If a company is doing its business in some country where the profit is relatively higher, what it does is through some illegal means or encashing the loopholes in the tax laws, it will profit its it will transfer its profits to the low tax countries which we call tax havens, so that it can get away from actual taxes. That is called base erosion and profit sharing. So to counter that, OECD and G20 framework has introduced global minimum tax. Why is it in the news? Because the global minimum tax, this BEPS leads to race to the bottom condition. Race to the bottom means they will try to show as lesser profit as possible, right? So to avoid that, the BEPS framework under OECD and G20 countries, so to avoid that, the BEPS framework under OECD and G20 countries is devising a side-by-side agreement so that the race to the bottom has been reduced. So what is that agreement? We don't need to know that, but since that is there in the news, we have to know what is global minimal tax and BEPS. So what is global minimum tax? Again, it is part of OECD and G20 framework. What happens? You should know. For example, let's say if an MNC pays just 5% tax in the tax haven, that is the country where there is a very less tax or zero tax. Let's say if the country pays only 5% tax in a tax haven, the global minimum tax has been put at 15%. Now the gap of tax paid by the MNC is calculated, it will be 10%. So 10% tax on the profits that it has booked has to be paid. That 10% will be charged by the home country. Home country. That is, in an example, it has taken that if the $1,000 profit has been shown, $50 has been paid in the tax havens. Rest 100 rupees, that is 10% of the profit, is going to be collected by the home country. There is a home country where the business or the company has been registered. There is the tax haven country, right? So if the tax haven country where the profits have been declared, if it does not charge the required amount of tax, if it taxes it very less, the remaining amount of remaining tax has been collected by home country. So to summing up to 15% of the total tax, that is called global minimum tax. So now where does India lie? For example, home country, let's say if it is USA, right? Google, Amazon, wherever, the headquarters is in USA, and the majority of the business is made in India, right? Tax are paid in tax haven, right? So what happens is, if the tax haven is not charging whatever the revenue that is generated by India, if the $1,000 is total profit declared by this MNC, if the $1,000 is the profit declared by the MNC for its global business, in India, let's say if it has made $200 business, let's say, India can tax this $200 in India itself. It is called STTR, subject to tax rule, STTR. So second level of the question can be, what are STTR rule, or in which context we see STTR rule? Subject to tax rule, that means whatever the revenue arising out of India, though the company is not headquartered in India, though the company is not declaring its entire profits in India, or it is not paying its taxes in India, the Indian government can calculate the total amount of business or profit that is made by the MNC, and it can tax it there itself. That is called STTR rule, subject to taxation rule, right? So overall, whatever the tax paid in tax haven, whatever the tax paid under STTR rule, everything is going to be calculated. If it becomes 15%, then there is no issue. If it is lesser than 15%, the remaining amount of tax must be paid in the home country. So whatever the case may be, no company can save itself, right, by any other means from this minimum global tax, that is 15%. That's about global minimum tax. So under this context, they can ask, what is globe rules? Globe rules. What is the rule? No need to worry about the rule. That is global anti-base erosion rule. Context we must know. What is the context of globe rule? What is the context of STTR rule? The context of globe rule and STTR rule is global minimum taxation under BEPS framework of OECD and G20 countries. That much if you know, that is good enough. So last topic of this video, that's about digital finance and financial market. Again, there are so many questions that have been asked in the previous prelims examination. So maybe you can find it very useful. So there are something called stable coins were in the news. So what are stable coins? It has nothing to do with currency of any country. So it is regarding cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency. So those crypto coins, starting from Bitcoin, there are some Ethereum, Solano, there are so many, Litecoin, there are so many crypto coins, right? Many crypto coins are based on some algorithm, some underlying technology, some use cases, right? Based on their demand and supply, the price keeps on changing, right? But these stable coins, their price always remains stable, right? For example, you take rupee, in your pocket will be having money, right? So in one pocket you have gold, another pocket you have rupee. The gold price will fluctuate. Whatever in your pocket, the other pocket you have gold, right? That price will be fluctuating, but the rupee price that is there in your other pocket, the price always remains same. But what is the use of the rupee? The rupee is used to buy or sell the commodities, right? Similarly, if you open any crypto exchange platform, right, to buy and sell the cryptocurrencies or assets, these stable coins are used. So you put money in rupees. For example, you open any cryptocurrency exchange, Binance is there, right? You open the Binance app and you put the money, right? You deposit the rupee, right? You can't directly buy the crypto assets from the rupee. You have to convert first that rupee into stable coins, right? Those stable coins, as the name suggests, the price won't fluctuate. It will be pegged to, usually it will be pegged to US dollar. Usually it will be pegged to US dollar, right? And it is backed by underlying asset. It is not that I can launch a stable coin, I can bring in some algorithm, launch a stable coin, I'll keep my one coin value is equal to $1. No, I should have some property or asset to back it. If I own some 1 million stable coins, I should have at least 1 million rupee or 1 million US dollars with me. Without having any underlying asset, I cannot create a stable coin. Understood? So that is what stable coin means. So it acts as a means of exchange to buy or sell cryptocurrencies. In a crypto exchange, the value of a stable coin will never change. It is always pegged to US dollar or any other local currency, and as well as the value is backed by an underlying asset. Got it? That is why it gets credibility. If there is no underlying asset to back the value, then there will be no credibility. That's about stable coins, right? Key features, again, fast and cheap cross-border payments. You can just send or receive the stable coins. Concern, again, that's a concern. Uses for illegal activities. It is hard to track because all this anonymous crypto market is not regulated by any government. So it happens in anonymous channels. It is not under the control of any central bank, so it is difficult. Again, the stable coins, it acts as a fiat currency in the crypto world. Stable coins are nothing but fiat currency in the crypto world. So it is easy to exchange because the values remain same. There is no way to speculate. So it is seamless to transact cross-border payments, right? What is India's stand? India stand on stable coins. Not only stable coins, but for any cryptocurrency, not regulated, also not banned. Every crypto coin is considered as virtual digital asset. So in India, crypto exchanges are operating. You can buy or sell, that is not banned, but they are not considered as currencies, right? So they are just seen as assets. What kind of assets? Virtual digital assets. What is taxation mechanism? If you make profit by buying for cheaper and selling for higher price, 30% flat tax has been imposed. And for every transaction, though you make profit or you don't make any profit, just to buy and sell, for every transaction there will be 1% TDS will be applied. This is the taxation structure. That's enough for you for prelims with respect to stable coins. Now we'll move on to Payments Regulatory Board, right? What is Payments Regulatory Board? The board that is instituted, right? It is a statutory body under RBI which is responsible for managing India's payment and settlement systems. Includes UPI, all your cards, credit and debit, wallets, all your transactions. It can be RTGS, NEFT, IMPS, everything, right? Every payment and settlement transactions and systems will be regulated and supervised by Payments Regulatory Board. I told you it is a statutory body, right? Under Payment and Settlements Act, PSS. Under Payment and Settlements Act, Payments Regulatory Board has been constituted. Right. Why is it in the news? Its first meeting held in May 2025. May 2025 is its first meeting has been held. Earlier, what was there? We had Board for Payment Systems, BPSS was there. PRB has replaced erstwhile BPSS, right? Board for Payment Settlements System. That's about it. And there can be a question regarding what is the composition of PRB. It includes 6 members. Who are they? Chairperson, that is Governor of RBI. There are 2 RBI members. There are deputy governors or any other RBI officers. There are 6 government nominees, right? Again, same as Monetary Policy Committee. These 6 expert members are appointed for 4 years. There is no reappointment as well. It balances RBI authority and government oversight, right? It should not be like the payment systems should not be overpowered by the government, as well as there should be some checks and balance for RBI's authority. So PRB plays that role. And meeting at least 2 times a year, quorum at least 3 members per meeting. UPSC likes these kind of topics. Earlier it was behind MPC, now there can be a question regarding PRB. Key functions, again, same thing, authorizes the payment, sets standards, security and technical standards, etc. Not so important for prelims. Now, let's move on to Securities Markets Code Bill 2025. Securities Markets Code Bill 2025 is going to replace 3 important laws: Securities Contract Act, SEBI Act, Depositories Act. Depositories Act, SEBI Act and Securities Contract Act. All 3 acts are going to be replaced by Securities and Market Code Bill, right? So, what is the function? Why it has been introduced? First thing is, what are the provisions in this? To strengthen the SBI, to strengthen SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India, right? How? It is going to increase the number of members, right? It is going to enhance the government representation. It is going to include RBI representation. It is going to enhance the number of members in the board by enhancing government representatives as well as including RBI representatives. Next, it is going to create a properly separated architecture or a structure of powers. There is a separate body going to be responsible for investigation in SEBI. Similarly, there is a separate body responsible for adjudicating, separate body which is looking after this process. And the second provision is going to be separation of powers in SEBI. Earlier, SEBI was relatively unorganized. It also acts as quasi judicial body. It only frames the rules. It only investigates the fraud, and it only adjudicates. It only gives a judgment. All these things are done by same body. There was no proper organization, but this law provides a proper organization. There is a separate investigation body. There is a separate adjudication body. There is a separate body which has to look after the process of rule making, etc. There is going to be separate bodies responsible for separate functions. Right. And very important thing, it is going to decriminalize. There are certain minor offences, financial frauds. Earlier, every financial fraud under SEBI was treated as criminal offence. Now, minor offences are considered under civil penalty. Only serious frauds are considered as criminal offences. Right? So, these are the important provisions under the new bill. Others, no need to worry. But the bill has not been enacted. That means it is still under parliamentary review. Right? The bill is referred to Standing Committee on Finance. It is still under scrutiny. So, it is not yet been enacted. Next, one more important or curious topic in the financial market, maybe SWAMIH Fund. SWAMIH, Special Window Affordable Mid-Income and Housing. Affordable mid-income housing. Right? Affordable mid-income housing. It is a fund which is responsible to refund the stalled projects which include affordable and mid-income housing. If there are any mid-income or affordable housing projects which have been stalled because of lack of funds, this SWAMIH Fund is going to give the boost. It also provides investment opportunities as well as it helps those stalled projects to take off and bring it to the completion. It also helps those urban dwellers to access the affordable housing facilities. SWAMIH Fund. It is introduced in 2019, not now, 2019. It is a category 2 alternative investment fund. I will talk about what is alternative investment and I will brief about what are the categories available. Who manages this? SBI. There is an SBI entity manages SWAMIH Fund. That means it has sovereign security. Right? Sovereign security. That provides the credibility to the fund. That's what I told you. It's government backed. That's why it has sovereign support. So, why was SWAMIH Fund needed? Again, not for prelims. Maybe if you want to understand better. Builders took advance payments from buyers and bank loans, but over leveraged means higher interest rate. Builders ran out of funds. Construction stopped in the midway. Home buyers were stuck because they were given some advance money. They're not getting the possession of their homes. They would have also taken some home loan. Builders also would have taken some bank loan. They are also not able to complete the project. Banks will suffer. They could not fund stressed projects classified as NPS. Likewise, there is nearly 4.5 lakh units of homes are stuck. So to solve this problem, SWAMIH Fund has been introduced. Right. So now, how does it work? It is category 2 alternative investment fund. What is AIF? Alternative investment fund. It is an investment fund other than mutual fund. Right? It is a pooled fund other than mutual funds. Simple definition. Right? In that, category 2 means there is no leverage. There is no high leverage. Right? You are not putting the money for hedging purposes. You seek some returns but not with a higher leverage. If there is no high leverage means there is a less risk. Right? So, this category 2 AIF invests only in unlisted securities of real estate companies. Unlisted means they are not part of any stock exchange. right? These category 2 AIFs are not leveraged, not heavily leveraged, and they are invested in unlisted real estate projects. Minimum 1 crore per investor, right? Regulated by SEBI because it is an investment fund. Affordable housing targets, no need to worry about that. Who manages this? Who manages the fund? SBI Cap Ventures, that is the SBI designated body, SBI Cap Ventures. No need to remember the name of the venture, but you should know that it is backed by government. That's all. It has sovereign security. Initial corpus is given by government, LIC and SBI. It is backed by government and funded by government. Right. So how does it work? Fund evaluates the stalled projects. It checks if it is viable or not. It provides debt, secure debt, not equity. Not equity. It provides debt. It monitors construction completion. Fund exits once project is complete and flats are delivered. Right. Repayment comes from flat sale proceeds. It is not equity. It provides secured debt. Right. So the fund exits once all the flats have been sold. Repayment of the debt happens through the money, the proceeds of selling the flats. That's about SWAMIH Fund. Why is in the news? Because there is a SWAMIH Fund 2 has been announced. SWAMIH Fund 2 has been announced because the validity of SWAMIH Fund, it was announced in 2019, it got over in 2024 itself, 5 years. Now new SWAMIH 2, second version of SWAMIH Fund has been introduced, right, in the budget 24-25. Second news regarding the SWAMIH Fund is, now earlier what happened, RBI restricted banks or NBFCs from investing in AIFs. If AIF in return invested in companies indebted to those banks. For example, there is a stalled affordable housing project. This project has taken loan from this bank, but this project is not able to repay the loan. Now there is a AIF is created. Can this bank invest in this AIF? Earlier RBI said no, because this company is indebted to this bank, so this bank cannot invest in AIF. But now RBI has allowed that. Now this bank can invest in AIF, though this project which AIF is investing in is indebted to this bank. Understood? That is a new provision. SWAMIH is a sovereign backed public interest fund. Exempting it allows banks or NBFCs to continue funding in SWAMIH. That is the second provision. This is the reason SWAMIH Fund is in news. SWAMIH version 2 has been announced, and now banks and NBFCs, though the project has been indebted to them, they can invest in the alternative fund, that is SWAMIH Fund, even though the fund is investing back into the same project. That is why SWAMIH Fund was in the news. So what are alternative investment funds? Alternative, it was asked once or twice, I think. Alternative investment fund is a private pooled fund. It is not a mutual fund, right? For sophisticated investors, if they want to invest, they know the market thoroughly. Regulated by SEBI. Me and you, can we invest? Yes, only if you have 1 crore. Minimum 1 crore to be invested per investor. Now, what is category 1, category 2, category 3? Remember this, category 1, least risk. These funds are invested in social purposes, social activities which is good for society, not merely for profit making. Startups, small and medium enterprises, social impact companies, road, ports, power plants, etc. These kind of projects are identified with less risk, that means less leverage, and government also provides certain tax benefits and concessions. There is a government support. Category 2, unlisted companies, right? Corporate loans, commercial, residential projects, stressed assets, etc. There is some expectation of good amount of profit. Government, it neither imposes any restriction nor does it provide any special benefit. kind of neutral. Category 3 is a high risk fund. Got it? Their expectation is very high. Returns expectation is very high. High leverage. The fund has high leverage. Right? It invests in derivatives, hedge funds, private investment in listed companies, etc. Don't have to go into such details, but you should know that. And government closely monitors that. Government with proper limits and checks and balances, it closely monitors category 3 alternative investment funds. So category 1, category 2, category 3. This much if you know, you can answer any question regarding AIF, right? Next, last part of the video, that's about NPS Vatsalya Scheme. National Pension Scheme has been asked many times. Now there is a new scheme under NPS, so can be important question for prelims. What is NPS Vatsalya Scheme? For example, what is National Pension Scheme? NPS scheme, earlier the pension were given by the government, to the government employees, the government is to give some fixed amount as pension after the retirement, usually 50% of the last drawn salary. There, that is called old pension scheme, right? So there the government faced a lot of financial crunch to provide, pension. Now the government has come up with NPS scheme where the government and government employees, they contribute some amount, that is nearly 10% of their salary. Equal amount of the money will be also contributed by the employer. But this NPS is only for government employees? No. Even private citizens also can subscribe to this NPS. So what is the limit? Right? I will talk about that. So what is the limit? Right? The NPS for outsiders is very flexible. They can put any amount of money, but minimum 500 rupees per year. So what is the return? We'll discuss all of that. But under that, there is specific scheme called NPS Vatsalya Scheme. It is specifically meant for kids. Right? Pension scheme under NPS framework that allows parents or guardians, both, to open a pension account in a child's name, enabling early retirement savings from childhood itself. Even if the kid is born, just born, a parent can go and open NPS Vatsalya account. They can start, depositing the money to ensure that the kid, by the time it reaches 18, it will have some solid retirement saving fund. That's about NPS Vatsalya Scheme. Regulator is PFRDA. Right? Eligibility less than 18 years. Less than 18 years. Key features, account will be in the child's name. Right. And minimum contribution 1000 rupees per year. Right. Corpus will grow till the retirement age 60 plus. After 18, the child can continue its contributions. The corpus will expire or they will grow till the age of 60. It is market linked. There is no standard interest. Right? The interest, the returns will depend on the market. Right? Where the fund is being invested, based on the returns of the market, the returns will be decided for the fund. So let us differentiate between NPS Atal Pension Yojana and NPS Vatsalya Yojana for your prelims purpose. Right. For whom? NPS is for working adults. It can be government or private sector employees. APY Atal Pension Yojana, 18 to 40 years of age, for unorganized sector workers. Unorganized sector workers. Vatsalya Yojana for minor children. Right. Launching date, no need to worry. Minimum age for NPS and API it is 18 years, but for Vatsalya no need. Right from the birth of the kid, the account can be opened. Regulator is all same for 3. Pension type, that means the returns will be decided on market returns, market linked. Even Vatsalya scheme is also market linked. But Atal Pension Yojana, which is dedicated for unorganized workers, there is a guaranteed minimum pension based on the subscription, based on the premium you pay. There is a guaranteed minimum pension of ranging from 1000 to 5000 rupees. So for NPS scheme, contribution is flexible, minimum 500 per year. For Atal Pension Yojana, rupees 42 minimum rupees 42 to 1,454 rupees. For Vatsalya scheme, it is minimum 1,000 rupees. So they may ask such details: minimum contribution, age limit, as well as whom it is confined for, or who is the target audience. All the funds can be exited at 60, and how much can be withdrawn and all. We don't need such details. How much, at what time, those details can be omitted, right? So that's about the first video of this economic current affairs series, Dhurandhar, the final revision. I have made honest efforts to touch upon high priority topics in this first video. Coming forward, I will be releasing 2 more videos where I am going to touch upon second and third priority topics pertaining to UPSC Prelims current affairs. In the whole series of videos, I am going to cover at least 90 to 100 topics in brief where it is required and in depth where it is required, so that it will help you to speeden or pace up your UPSC current affairs revision process. If some topics are found to be new, don't worry. Okay, if you cannot grasp it or can't remember it, don't force yourself to mug it or by heart it. It's okay. Be calm, composed and confident, and you can crack this exam with flying colors. Let us meet in the next video. If you got any doubts, any comments, any feedback, please, your comment section is there. Feel free to provide constructive feedback, and I will include all those feedback in the upcoming video. Thank you.